Welcome back to the Jumpify Labs podcast, the show for founders who want growth without the guesswork. Here we talk about systems driving predictable growth. And today's guest built a two-person consultancy that scaled its impact across 5,000 teams and some of the biggest organizations on the planet. His rocket models become the backbone for teamwork in companies like Red Bull, Walmart, and Johnson & Johnson, helping leaders level up how they build, measure, and manage teams at scale. Gordy Curphy, welcome to the show.
Jay, thank you very much for having me.
The pleasure's all mine, brother. Let's kick things off. When leaders hear the word teamwork, they think about soft skills, but you've built a measurement-based system used by over 5,000 teams. What sparked the creation of the Rocket?
Well, I think for some of the reasons you just talked about, I think a lot of people, when they think about teams, they think about soft stuff. They think about doing some sort of fun team building activity. Let's go out and do a ropes course. That's a typical, can you come in for 60 minutes to do a team building thing for us? But we know that every significant human achievement was the result of collective effort. You got to get a bunch of people working together to get anything done. And I didn't think there was really a good process or a good system out there that says, okay, here's what we really know about how people work together, what works and what doesn't work. I know the ropes course stuff is fun, but it doesn't necessarily help you get better results. So, we just went down this path about 25, 30 years ago to start saying, okay, what actually really works when it comes to getting a collection of people working effectively together to make something happen? And that's how we started our whole business.
Outstanding. That sounds really cool. So you have your own framework called the Rocket Model. For everyone hearing it for the very first time, what's the core foundation of the Rocket?
We've got this model called the Rocket Model, and it's got 8 components in it. But the idea behind the Rocket Model, Jay, is what do you need to know in order to build a team? And what the Rocket Model does when it's used in companies like Red Bull or Johnson & Johnson, it creates a common language for building a team. Because if I had 20 leaders in a room and asked them, okay, how do you go about building a team? I'm going to get 20 different answers. Some people are going to be pretty close. A lot of people are going to be way off. And so what the Rocket Model does is say, okay, here's what you truly have to do if you want to build a team. Here's what you got to pay attention to. But that's only part of it. The second part of it is getting feedback on those 8 dimensions of the Rocket Model. So one is, here's this model. Okay, how is my team actually doing against that model? What are we doing well? What are we not doing so well? And how do we compare to other teams? And what are our customers saying about our team? And so there's a diagnostic piece to the Rocket Model. And then the third piece is, okay, I've got this feedback. We're doing these sorts of things well, but guess what? We're running lousy meetings. People are confused about what their roles are. We don't have a whole lot of psychological safety on this team. People don't feel comfortable sharing truths. Well, what do I as a team leader do to help improve my team in those areas? And so the other piece we have to this puzzle is this book called Ignition, which has got all these tools and techniques, which says if your team is running lousy meetings, or if people, you don't have really good goals identified for the team, here's exactly what you do to address those issues. So we walk you through step by step. These are the things you do. These are the things you say. Here's the materials you need. And then you work with the team to kind of resolve those issues.
Amazing. And you've worked with everyone from 50-person shops all the way up to Walmart. What's the universal thing that you're finding about teamwork, regardless of company size?
Well, look, here's my funny thing. I'll get 20 leaders in a room. I'll say, okay, research shows that only 1 in 5 teams are high performing. So in the room of 20 people, 4 people will be leading high performing teams. 16 will not. I guarantee you about 90% of the people in the room think they're one of the 4. So what, to me, what's really interesting is, all these people think they're really good at building teams, and are not that good at it. I mean, some people are really good at it. I mean, you and I both work for leaders who are really good at building teams. I mean, they were just phenomenal at it. But that's the exception to the rule. When I ask people, I says, think about all the teams you've ever worked on over the course of your career. And I'll say, out of those teams, estimate how many you think were high performing. What's the percentage? you're going to get like 10 to 20%. Everybody readily admits that, most teams I've ever been on have not been high performing. Yet the one I currently lead certainly is. Really? You think your direct reports would say the same thing? I don't think so. That's why it's so important. We talked earlier about these components of the rocket model, the model and the diagnostic and the tools. It's so important to get feedback because a lot of people are delusional about their team building skills. And until you get that benchmarking feedback and you could see, here's how I think we're doing, here's how the team thinks we're doing, here's what our customers think we're doing, and here's how we stack up compared to other teams. Till you get that feedback, I think a lot of people are fooling themselves about how good they are at building teams.
It's such good insight. I mean, that's so well put. And it is definitely a bit of an aha moment for someone that's listening, thinking, okay, I'm saying this, that my team's high performing, but they want to have some actual something concrete where, okay, I definitely am leading a high performing team, or I definitely am not. What's something they could do to find out?
Well, we on our website, we've got a website called www.rocketmodelforteams.com. On that website, you can take our team assessment survey. You and your team and your customers can take the team survey. We walk you through it. Takes about 15 minutes to set up. So you've got to identify, who the team is, what the name of the team is, who should be getting surveys, and it's going to cost you $555 to answer that question. But you're going to get feedback that says, here's how the team feels we're doing. Here's how I think we're doing. Here's what our customers think we're doing. And here's how we stack up compared to other teams. And those teams could be C-suite teams. Those teams could be, business unit leadership teams. They could be HR teams. We've got 19 different benchmarks, 19 different comparison groups you can rate yourself against. And you can just see, yeah, am I really good? I may turn out, but yeah, I am good at it. Everybody thinks I'm good at it. Or I may be alleged in my own mind and charismatically challenged in the eyes of others. So you can get data. To me, until you get data, you just have an opinion about how good you are at this sort of stuff.
You've also worked with, I mean, we name dropped Walmart, but you also work with Johnson Johnson. You've worked with Red Bull, and these are big organizations with multiple hundreds of employees. How soon or how small should people be thinking about their team and the team that they're leading with their own businesses? Because two people, that's technically a team. Is this something that they should implement at that stage, or?
No, 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 no. I think, Jay, I think if you've got a collection of people working for you, I mean, two or three people, four people is probably not big enough to worry about. You start getting 5, 6, 8 people, then, it might be worthwhile to get some feedback on how you're doing in terms of building a team. And the nice thing is this ignition book will give you all the tools you need to help the team get to the next level of performance. As a matter of fact, a lot of things that we end up doing with larger companies is we train leaders how to build teams. So we've run about 6,000 leaders through different leadership development programs we've built, where as part of the pre-work for the leadership development program, their teams will take the team assessment survey. So they'll take our team diagnostic as pre-work, and then we'll have them for a day or 2 days in class. And part of what ends up happening in the class is they get their feedback about their team. Here's how we're doing. Here's what customers are saying. Here's how we stack up. And then we teach them how to interpret that report. And then we teach them how to use the tools to build teams that they can take back to the workplace and use with their teams to help bring their scores up and help do a better job driving for results.
So good. Okay, so let's take a bit of a pivot. This is the work you do in your business. Let's talk about the actual business now, because you said one of your bigger challenges earlier on was shifting from a lifestyle business to something with sellable IP. What encouraged you to make that transition?
It was just something that was almost serendipitous. It ended up being one of these things where we started building this IP because we saw this niche. And then now that we've got some traction around it all, it's like, geez, maybe we could make this into something a lot bigger than it is. So, I wouldn't say 15 years ago, I had this master plan saying, okay, I'm going to move from a lifestyle business. And again, a lifestyle business for the audience this is a business where you essentially sell your time. Most consultancies are lifetime businesses because they're basically you're selling your knowledge and your time. And that's, whether you're an accounting firm or a law firm or a consulting firm, it's basically a lifestyle business, versus a business where you build IP or build a structure or, build a restaurant or something like that. You've got something to sell when you leave. And, we've started building all this IP around teams that was very scalable. And now we're starting to make the shift from doing less work and selling our time to trying to do a lot more selling of our IP. But
Hmm.
I wouldn't say there was some sort of like, oh boy, we're going to make this shift. It just sort of happened as things got more and more popular. It's kind of like, gosh, I could make money sitting on the beach somewhere rather than getting on an airplane and flying to Muscatine, Iowa to do a team building event. So, that was kind of the realization there.
Yeah. And you went through this period where you productized your expertise. What was the hardest part about taking what was living in your head and actually putting it into the certification or these other things that you built that you're putting people through next?
I don't know if there was a hard part there because some of that was it's stuff I had been doing for other companies for a long time. So it wasn't like something I had to master. I think one of the things that's turning out to be pretty difficult though, um, is so our model is basically a volume model. So, basically the way we make money is by selling particularly our team assessments. So teams would take our assessment and get benchmarking feedback. Well, we've got an assessment that works pretty well. Now I got to find distributors. I got to find other people who feel passionate about the product, feel passionate about helping organizations with teamwork and want to, preach the gospel to other companies. And what's been what's been a learning exercise for us is as we start expanding globally and differentiating between what I'm going to call consultants and distributors. So consultants are people who basically sell their time. And so, a typical team engagement for us is, 20, 25 grand for a 2-day engagement. You sell, 15 of those a year, you're going to make 30, 300, 300, $400,000. That's pretty good money for a lot of people. They don't have to work that hard. That's only selling 10 or 15 team assessments for us. So the consultant's making a lot of money. We're not making that much money. And that's very different than a distributor, where a distributor makes their money off product and they're selling product. They're not selling their time. And what we found out for the first, 10 years, I think when we started growing was we had lots of people really liking the product, really loved the product, but they'd end up doing like 10 or 15 team engagements a year, making their money, but we weren't making anything because we were only selling 10 or 15 assessments. They were selling, you know, they said they were making their four or $500,000 a year, and we were making, 1,000. It's like, all right, that's it's good for them. Let them do their thing. But the reality is we really want to find distributors, people who are in the product business, who are going to push product as opposed to selling their time. And that's still an ongoing issue with us. We haven't mastered that one completely by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, the next question I would have had was 2026 being around the corner, what would be your focus? So it sounds like the focus is actually finding distributors, educating them, getting them good so that you could be more hands off a little bit.
Yeah, and we're and I think like with anybody else, Jay, we're constantly upgrading our product. So we've got a new version of our team assessment coming out. We've got a big update coming out with that. We may end up writing a second, our third book on teams because we've got a bunch of IP that we've learned since 2019 when the last book came out. Probably time to do another book there. So constantly refreshing our IP, but at the same time, as you said, we've got to find other distributors and get them get them pushing product.
And how are you finding distributors now?
Purely word of mouth. All of our work has been done word of mouth. We've never hired really a marketing company or anything like that to get things out there. And part of it is, and I think maybe you and I talked about this when we were on the phone earlier. We could easily grown to 15 or 20 person staff, but my wife and I like taking lots of time off. If you have a staff, then you got to worry about making payroll. Last year, this 2025, we took 8 vacations of 1 to 3 weeks long. And, 2026 will probably do the same thing. Maybe take 10 vacations. It's kind of like, I don't want to work that hard. We could have a big staff and we probably could have had a bigger footprint. But on the other hand, then if I got to worry about making payroll and I can't take time off, well, then I'm not going to be happy. So I've got to try to find this balance here between, you know, trying to get the product up and running and getting people using it and being able to screw around like I do.
And that's one of the things I always talk about when I'm talking with partners, potential partners, anyone that's just talking about business. It's what do you want your business to look like? And then work backwards from that. Because that's going to
Mhm.
dictate the amount of inputs that you get so you can get with more accuracy, predict what kind of outputs you're going to get too. But if you don't have a North Star, then you're just kind of going with the flow, which isn't a bad thing, but you might end up somewhere you completely did not expect. All right. So, Gordy, for leaders wanting to benchmark their teams and find out more about how they can actually build an efficient team instead of just being one of those that suspect they're high performing teams, but actually know for certainty, what's best entry point for them to get into your ecosystem?
Well, I think the best entry point is to go to our website. Again, www.therocketmodelforteams.com. It's got all kinds of resources on the website. One of them being this team assessment survey. You can see what the feedback report looks like. So you can download a sample copy. Okay, here's what I'll get if I go down this path. And then if you decide to go down the path, it'll walk you through the steps to actually set up the survey for your team. And it'll also have all the resources necessary to help facilitate the team getting to the next level of performance.
That sounds like a great resource. It sounds like you've definitely built an outstanding model. Of course, if small teams and then these big organizations are using it, there's definitely something there that's worth paying attention to. So if you want to find out if you are running a high performing team or if you just kind of want to continue going by feel, don't do anything. But if you want to know for sure, make sure you check out Gordy's website. And if you like more stories like this, tune into the Jumpify Labs podcast for a lot more. We're bringing on a bunch of leaders just like Gordy, sharing their experience and how they built business to get them to where they're at today, and they're sharing some of the things they're doing to continue building their business in the future. My name is Jay. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Thanks for having me.